Hello and welcome to the channel. And today we're going to return to the series on the Expressway servers, and this time we're going to focus on security by learning how to configure restriction policies for endpoint registration. So to demonstrate this, I'm logged into a VCS, and then for my endpoint I've got a DX80, and I've got it configured for both H.323 and SIP. But if you remember from a previous video, I can only use one at a time, so we'll start out with SIP. The SIP is configured to use 4001 at dcloud.cisco.com, and H323 is configured for 4002 at dcloud.cisco.com. And of course, we'll use both for this video. Okay, and just to kind of show you right now, I've got 4001 registered via SIP. Okay, so the idea here is that the Expressway out of the box, once you configure the basic settings to allow H323 or SIP endpoints to register, at this point, any SIP or H323 endpoints that have reachability to that Expressway server is able to register. But in the real world, you'll want to control your environment by putting restrictions on who is and who is not allowed to register. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do that. So on the Expressway, if you go to Configuration, then Registration, you have three settings: Configuration, Allow List, and Deny List. Let's first go to the Registration Configuration menu. Now, if you click the Registration Policy drop-down menu, which defaults to none, what you'll see is three options: Allow List, Deny List, and Policy Service. Now, Policy Service uses a CTL script to determine who's either allowed or denied to register, so we're going to save that for another video, I think. Today we're just going to focus on the Allow and Deny lists. So we can turn on any of these just by selecting them and then clicking Save down here. Okay, now what's important to understand about setting your restriction policy is that you can set it to either allow or deny, but you can't choose both. So this means that when one is on, the other is automatically set to off. Okay, so let's do the allow list first. So we'll set this to allow list and then we'll click Save. Now the first thing to notice is that this link down here under related tasks that says configure the registration allow list. Now if you click this link, it'll take you to the exact same place as if we selected configuration registration allow list. And as you can see, it's completely empty at this point, but of course we haven't configured anything yet. So remember our endpoint that was registered before. Let's go back to status registration by device. And here we can see that our SIP endpoint is no longer registered because, of course, it has not been included in the list of devices that are allowed to register. So when the allow list is empty, if nobody has been added to the allow list, and if the allow list is turned on, then nobody will be allowed to register to this Expressway. And by the way, this counts for both SIP and H323. Neither endpoint will be able to register unless they are on the allow list. Okay, so let's configure an allow list so that you can see how that's done. So let's go back to Configuration, Registration, Allow List. So let's go ahead and click New to create a new allow pattern. Now there are actually 4 different ways that you can create an allow list, and they're all based on the alias. And notice that for pattern type, I can select exact, prefix, suffix, or regular expression. Now exact match would be great if I wanted to match just one endpoint, but for multiple endpoints it's better to use suffix. So I'll assume that we're in a large corporation and I need to configure this for multiple endpoints. Okay, so we'll select suffix and I'm going to put dcloud.cisco.com in here. Now if all my SIP endpoints are registered with the fully qualified domain of dcloud.cisco.com, then this should work fine for all of those endpoints. And by the way, it would also work for any H323 endpoints if they had an H323 ID that was in the form of a URI and had dcloud.cisco.com as a domain. Okay? And I could put in a description here, but it's not really required, so I'm going to skip that for now. So we're going to click Add Allow List Pattern. And now I've got a pattern here, and our SIP endpoint should be able to register again. So let's go back to Status, Registration by Device. And it hasn't registered so far, but that's because, remember from the previous video, there's an interval that an endpoint will wait before it tries to re-register. So if we click Reload here, wait a second, Then try again, and there, our SIP endpoint can now register again. So that's our allow list. Now let's change this up. Let's do a deny list. So let's go back to configuration, registration, configuration. And I'm going to change allow list to deny list. Okay, and then we'll click save. So at this point I have deny list turned on, but I have no rules configured in the deny list. So what this means is that everyone can register because no one is being denied. Because remember, either the allow list is turned on or the deny list is turned on. It must be one or the other. It can't be both. And even if I have rules configured for an allow list, those rules will be ignored if the allow list isn't turned on. Okay, so again, at this point, everyone is going to be allowed to register because the deny list is turned on and nobody is on the list to be denied. Okay? Okay, and just to demonstrate this, let's go ahead and create a deny list. And again, I can go there by clicking the link at the bottom, configure the registration deny list, or I can go to configuration registration deny list. And just to mix it up here, I'll go ahead and click the link this time. And again, as you can see, the deny list is empty, so everyone is going to get through. Okay, so we'll click new to create a new deny list. And again, we can create a deny list based on an exact match, the prefix, suffix, or regular expression. So this time I'm going to do a prefix, and we'll do a prefix of 4001, and we'll add that deny list pattern. Okay, and we can see the pattern type and pattern string 4001. And now let's check to see if our endpoint is still registered by going to status, registration by device. And again, there's that interval we talked about, so we don't see the results immediately. So let's reload this and see, and again, and there, it's unregistered. And to see why it's unregistered, you don't have to take my word for it. We can check the logs by going to status and down here to logs, and we'll click the event log. And then here you can see registration rejected. And the reason is because of the restriction policy we just configured, our SIP endpoint. And so let's take a look at our endpoint again. Here we can see that it has a status of 403 forbidden. So let's switch over to H323 here, just so we can include that as well. So to do that, I need to go to Setup, and then Network Services, and then we'll switch H323 mode to on, and then we'll turn SIP to off. Okay, I'll save that, then go back to Home. And then here we can see the H323 status is registered and SIP is disabled. And remember, H323 can register because the deny list is only denying a prefix of 4001, but H323 is registered with 4002. So let's go back to the VCS and check our registration by going to Status by Device. And then here we can see our 402 registered, and it's registered via H323. Great. Now, the deny list we created for 4001, that's fine. That's one way to do it, but there's actually another way, and probably this was the intended purpose. So let's say that I've got this endpoint registered here, but let's say that it's not an endpoint that's supposed to be registered. So what I can do is click on this endpoint here, and then I can come down to registration details here where it says unregister and block. And if we click that button, this will not only unregister this endpoint, it will also add all of this endpoint's aliases to the deny list. Okay, so let's see this. Let's go back to configuration, registration, deny list. And notice that it added 4002 and 4002 at dcloud.cisco.com as exact matches and then put them in the deny list. And once again, we can check the endpoint here by device. And we can see here that our H323 endpoint is no longer registered. So that button, unregister and block, that button exists only if the deny list is enabled. If we were to turn on the allow list instead, in fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back and turn it on. Okay, and then I'll choose allow list and then click save. So now the allow list is on and the deny list is off. We should be able to see our endpoint re-register. Let's see, refresh this. There's our endpoint again. And then this time when we click on this link, we can see that the button for unregister and lock is no longer available. So again, that button is only available if the deny list is turned on. But if the allow list is turned on, or if there's no restriction policy set at all, then unregister and block is not going to be available. Okay, that'll about do it for this one. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.